You know, one of the bills that's been introduced into Congress recently is a national reciprocity bill. Now, for those of you that don't know, national reciprocity is basically a bill that says if you're licensed to carry a gun in any state, you can carry a gun in every state. Every state has to recognize every concealed carry permit. And if you live in a state where you don't have a concealed carry permit, just any proof that you actually are a resident of that state is considered a permit no matter what state of the union you are in. Now, before I go any further, I want to apologize for the safe being in the corner back here in my green screen effect. I just got my new Liberty safe delivered, and I made the mistake of buying a high-quality American safe, and it's too heavy for me to move. So until my 18-year-old son gets home from school today, I can't move it. Believe me, I tried. So just put up with it being there. Won't be there tomorrow. But like I was saying, national reciprocity is a bill that's been introduced into Congress now. And I would think all gun people would be all for national reciprocity. But it turns out some gun people are actually against it. There's one particular YouTube personality that just did a video talking about why they're against it. Now, I'm not going to give this person's name or anything because I think that would be kind of crude and I'm a gentleman. So I'm just going to say, it's this guy right here. And he made a video saying that he is not for this bill because he thinks that that gives the federal government unprecedented authority when it comes to controlling concealed carry. He made the argument that he thinks if we give government the power to say who can carry, then they'll have the power to say who can't carry eventually. But, I don't see his point in this. I don't understand his logic at all. For one, the government has already taken a role in concealed carry. If you think they've never made any laws about concealed carry, you're wrong. Every time the Supreme Court makes a ruling on carrying and the Second Amendment, that's basically a federal law. That's now the rule of the land, the law of the land, basically. So that is something they've already done. Every time you can't carry into a courthouse or a schoolhouse or anything like that, that's a federal law about who can carry and where they can carry. So as far as it being an unprecedented power that's never been given to the government, it's something they've already been doing for a very long time. Look at the handgun laws that the federal government has passed. The big ones that we're fighting. The ATF, the NFA laws, the Hughes Amendment. Those are all federal laws and those all deal with our gun rights. So saying that we're giving them unprecedented power when it comes to guns, that's ridiculous. They've already been using their power to usurp our rights when it comes to the Second Amendment for a long time. And I don't see this bill as a step to taking away more rights. It is actually a step towards granting more rights or recognizing more rights. This isn't some slippery slope bill that gives them the right to regulate concealed carry. It's basically just the government doing something that they already do with pretty much every other contract between a citizen and a state. They're saying if you have a contract with Ohio, basically that contract being that they have issued you a carry permit, or that through their constitution, like in West Virginia where I'm from, they say you are qualified to carry a gun simply because you are a resident and you have the Second Amendment right to do so. If you have that contract with that state, every state has to recognize it. Just like if you were married in Ohio and moved to California, California doesn't get to say, well, you're married in Ohio, but you're not married here. Or if you're from Ohio and you go to California on vacation and you're driving a car, California can't pull you over and give you a ticket for driving without a license because you don't have a California license. They have to honor your contracts with the other state. The federal government doesn't say this is what you got to do to get a driver's license, and they don't say this is what you got to do to get married because every state has slightly different rules on that. But they do say if one state gives you this contract, they give you this contract and you agree to it, then every other state has to agree to it also because you are a citizen of the United States. You are not a Californian. That's not what you are when they talk about what is your nationality. You are a citizen of the United States, not any particular state. You have residency in a particular state, but you are a citizen of this country. And as a citizen of the country, you should enjoy the same rights in every state of the union that you do in your home state. And in my opinion, no state should be able to deny you rights that you have in any other state, because any right that you're granted by the Constitution should be universal. It shouldn't be state by state. Now, some people might say, well, this sounds like it might be good, but if you live in a state that's going to give you a carry permit and it's going to protect you when you go on vacation, that's great, but it doesn't really help states that already have bad gun laws. Well, actually, it does. Because if someone who lives in California wanted to come up to Oregon and get a non-resident permit, this law says that states have to honor resident and non-resident permits. So if that person can go up to Washington or Oregon and get a permit granted to them, they can go back to California and then they can carry because they have a contract with the state regarding concealed carry, and the state of California would have to honor that. So people who lived in Hawaii, California, they just have to take a little trip, get an out-of-state permit or a non-resident permit, and then your state would have to honor that. Because of this national reciprocity bill, they would have to say, well, that's a state contract, we have to honor it. Basically, what this would do is it would lower the restrictions of every state to the restrictions of the least restrictive state. Because if the least restrictive state was issuing permits to non-residents, well, then all people would have to do is go there, get a permit, go back home, and they're covered legally. And then, if that state tried to harass someone because they were carrying, well, then it would be a federal matter, and the DOJ could step in and tell states like California and Hawaii, this isn't a state matter anymore. This is you not honoring a contract with another state, which is a federal matter, so we're going to step in and tell you where you're wrong and slap you on the wrist. So I'm not understanding why some people are against it. This isn't some sort of slippery slope. The government isn't defining in any way how you can carry or who can carry or when you should be allowed to carry. They're just saying that if you have a contract with any state to say that you have the right to exercise your Second Amendment rights in this way, that every state has to honor that. Now, I know we all agree that there shouldn't have to be any contract, period, because the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. So no state should have the right to even impose any restrictions. But unfortunately, the Supreme Court has declared that states do have the right to impose some restrictions because no right is absolute. So in the case of public safety, they can put some reasonable restrictions. Whether we like it or not, that's the law. So some states abuse that law and use restrictive rules that are not reasonable. They place restrictions on the Second Amendment that are in no way reasonable. They actually deny you the right. And this law, this bill about national reciprocity, it would stop those states. It would really put a halt to the things that Bloomberg's trying to do. Because if it's not required in any other single state that you do this to be able to conceal carry, well, then your state's going to have a hard time making it to where you have to do it in their state to do it. Because you just go to another state, get the permit, and you're set to go. So like I said, it doesn't seem like any slippery slope to me. It's not a new power for the federal government. I only see positive in this bill. I don't see any negative. So if you're someone out there that opposes it, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that we should oppose it. But for me personally, right now, and probably from now on, I fully support this bill regarding national reciprocity. You ain't even my real dad.